Okay, class, so today we're going to go ahead and try doing a reading lesson together. It's going to be a little wonky because those discussion questions that we usually go over together, we're just going to go ahead and give you think time to work on them by yourselves, but hopefully it'll still allow us to develop our understanding of our reading. So today we're starting a new story, and this story kind of goes along with what we worked on with John Chapman, or Johnny Appleseed. It's called Pioneers to the West, and we know that Johnny Appleseed was also a pioneer, so this text should inform some of our previous understandings. Specifically today, we're going to be focusing on the text features of the first 9 pages of this story. And we notice that text features are anything from pictures, captions, maps, and in this case, there's also these special boxed sections of text that you'll see on the contents page of the first reading. And these help you better understand the content. So this isn't necessarily the text itself, but it helps supplement and helps benefit the rest of the text and the rest of the learning. So we're going to go ahead and listen to this text.
Contents. Westward Ho, page 4. Western Illinois, 1848, page 6. Central Illinois, 1849, page 10. Wisconsin, 1870, page 14. Missouri, 1883, page 20. From Sea to Shining Sea, page 26. Mapping Migration, page 28. Glossary, page 30. Find out more, page 31. Index, page 32. Daily life. Read here to learn what life was like for the children in these stories and the impact that migrating had at home and at school. Number crunching. Find out the details about migration and the numbers of people involved. Migrants' lives. Read these boxes to find out what happened to the children in this book when they grew up. On the scene. Read eyewitness accounts of migration in the migrants' own words. Helping hand. Find out how people and organizations have helped children to migrate. Some words are printed in bold, like this. You can find out what they mean by looking in the glossary. Westward Ho. In the 1800s, Americans started moving west. These settlers, or pioneers, left their homes for many reasons. Some were looking for new farmland. Others went in search of gold. Some were drawn by adventure or by the chance to start new businesses. For all of them, the trip west meant a new life. People often joined together on their journeys west. The lucky ones rode in covered wagons. Others walked many miles every day. Whose land? As these settlers headed west, they sometimes came into conflict with American Indians. The U.S. government had taken Indian lands for the pioneers to settle. Some Indians refused to leave without a fight. Many children traveled with their families to the west. Some even went on their own. About 1 out of every 5 pioneers was younger than 18 years old. Between 1840 and 1865, about 40,000 children went west. This book will explore the stories of some of these young pioneers. On the scene. In 1855, U.S. poet Walt Whitman published his poem, Pioneers, Oh Pioneers. In these lines from the poem, he describes the people heading west. Oh, you youths, Western youths, so impatient, full of action, full of manly pride and friendship. Plain I see you, Western youths, see you tramping with the foremost. Pioneers, oh pioneers. What kind of person do these words make you think about? Western Illinois, 1848. Mormons believe in a type of Christianity that developed in the United States in the 1830s. They first settled in Western Illinois, but conflicts with their neighbors made them head west. In 1846, they followed their leader, Brigham Young, to the Salt Lake Valley. Today, this is in the state of Utah, but in 1846, it was not yet part of the United States. The Mormon Trail was the path Mormons followed from Illinois to present-day Utah. It stretched about 2,100 kilometers, 1,300 miles, from the Mississippi River to the Salt Lake Valley. George Staples. George Staples was born in England. As the oldest son in his family, he went to the United States to seek his fortune. Meanwhile, his parents raised the money for the rest of the family to follow. In 1848, George headed west from Illinois with a group of Mormon pioneers. He was only 14 years old. George grew sick on the road. His fellow travelers did not want to stop and wait for George to recover, so they left him with a local fur trapper. Between 1846 and 1869, about 70,000 people followed the Mormon Trail. Helping Hand. The trapper whom George stayed with was friendly with a tribe of American Indians called the Sioux. Using herbal cures from local plants, a Sioux woman nursed George back to health. Life among the Sioux. George soon grew well. He wanted to return to his people, but the Sioux could not understand his language. They cared for George and treated him as one of their own. As time passed, George began to enjoy his new life. He dressed in Sioux clothing and followed the Sioux's ways. In the mid-1800s, American Indians made their clothing from plants and animal skins. They sometimes used feathers and shells for decoration. Daily life. In the mid-1850s, young American Indian boys played with toy bows and arrows and rode fake horses. They also played a game called shinny, which was like hockey. Players used wooden sticks to push a ball into a goal. The Lost Boy Found. By 1850, George's father, James, had arrived in Salt Lake. He heard stories from travelers who had seen a white boy living with the Sioux. Finally, a group of settlers went looking for George. When the young boy saw his father, he ran into his arms. American Indian life seemed strange to the new settlers. George never forgot his Sioux mother, and he visited her often. As a man, he wrote treaties, agreements between the Mormons and the local Indian tribes.
And think about it. So this question is, what are some reasons people left their homes to move west? And this is usually when we do a think, pair, share and you talk with your partner. But you can go ahead and just write down some thoughts about what are some reasons people left their homes to move west. You can write it down and you can send me a picture on Class Dojo, or you could type it out, or you can just think about it for a second, and then we will go ahead and move on to some close reading questions. first there's a little break time. We need to have a break time so that I can break up the video here and start the next video so we don't run into time constraints. But let's go ahead and pause here and we will start the next video in just a second.